Present day. Present time. And you don't seem to understand.
This is surprisingly accurate, as I really don't understand what actually happened in this anime. Lain may be the most confusing show that I watched up until this point. While I was originally interested in it by its looks and its reputation and its opening, I mean, when the opening song is that good, then the anime must be good too, right? I quickly found myself deeply invested into its plot. Lain started with giving me some uncanny vibes, as its atmosphere just felt a bit odd, which is actually an intended result of Chiaki J. Konaka, Lain's author. Konaka started writing Lain as some sort of horror story, as it was his main genre back then, and it threw up more questions than it gave answers, which was the reason I kept watching until the very end. And to be honest, I find it very hard to make a video about it, as I don't fully understand the show in its entirety, which actually seems to be a pretty common experience for everyone who's watched the show. But nonetheless, I wanted to share my thoughts and maybe inspire you to watch the show, or even open up a new perspective. So without further delay, let's get right into the matter of Serial Experiment Lain. First of all, to be clear, I'm not going to analyze the whole show, as I don't feel capable of doing Lain justice in doing so. I'm rather going into more detail about the philosophical questions that Lain is trying to portray, but in short, the main focus, as the name implies, is on the character Lain, an introverted 13-year-old student that dives into the Wired, which is basically an advanced version of the internet. While she dives deeper and deeper into the Wired, Lain reveals that things are not what they seem, and that the line between the Wired and the real world is thinner than we expected it to be, questioning what is real and what is not, and what does it mean to exist, or rather, how do we know that we even exist, and why? As I already mentioned, the show throws up lots of questions, and actually it's specifically designed to do so. Lain purposely confuses its viewers and interrupts ongoing storylines, or doesn't even care to finish them at all. The episodes are called layers, which can be interpreted as a metaphor. While Lain dives deeper into the Wired and breaks through certain layers of the system to unravel her truth, we as a viewer do the same, but we try to solve the mysteries that were laid in front of us. The show never really answers any of these questions, and that's probably because there is no right or wrong answer. And it is up to the viewer to decide what may be their own answer to all of these questions. While I am not able to know what it means to exist, I sure do have my own thoughts about it. I think we can all agree that for something to be real, it has to exist, and with that to have some sort of substance to make it up. Just like the phone or computer that you're watching this video on. You know that it exists as it is right in front of you, but for some things you cannot be so sure. For example, of course you're watching this video right now, and with that the person who made the video has to exist too, right? But how can you be sure of that, as you haven't been able to observe that person? So how can you be certain that I even exist in this moment in time? This is a thought I found while researching for this video, and came across a video by Sock Sensei. With an example like this, he tried to connect the thought of reality with solipsism. In short, solipsism is the idea that only one's mind is guaranteed to exist, and that knowledge out of one's mind is uncertain. The existence of other minds is unknown, and they might not even exist in the first place, which is a very trippy thing to think about. The reason Sock Sensei brought it up in his video, and I am doing now in mine, is that it correlates very well with the world of Lain. When you take Lain as the mind that we can be certain of her existing, then everyone around her becomes the minds with the uncertainty of existing, which, now that I think about, could explain why the interactions between Lain and others, like her family for example, felt so uncomfortable and weird. As Lain invests more and more time into the Wired, she tries to break the line between it and reality, as it begs the questions what the difference is between these two. If things can solely exist in the Wired, then doesn't it make it part of reality? A perfect example for a comparison, in my opinion, is the evolution of AI in the last few years. Especially when you think about the generated images that wander around the internet and social media. Right now we may be able to tell what is real and what is not with its flaws, but who can tell what it will be like in maybe 5 years from now? And when you think about that and consider that Lain is actually from the late 90s, then it's undeniable that it was ahead of its time. Telling a story about something that is relevant up until this day while being written at the start of the internet. I can really recommend it to all of you and even to people that aren't even into watching anime, as Lain focuses more on the philosophical questioning and carries a lot of character with it. It is definitely a show with none other like it. With that in mind, this is the end of the video. Thank you to everyone who watched up until this point, and feel free to share your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Make sure to check out Sock Sensei's video about Lain, as it is really worth watching and it helped me out a lot. With that said, I hope you enjoyed and that I see you in the next one.
And you don't seem to understand. A shame you seemed an honest man. I know the fears you hold so dear will turn to whisper